Ladies and gentlemen, there is a lot to talk about in the Call of Duty community right now because we've been getting tons of new information regarding what we're going to be getting for next year's Call of Duty, which honestly, it's kind of crazy that every year I feel like we start getting information on the next Call of Duty even earlier. It used to be like, maybe like 5 to 6 months before the game would come out, we'd start seeing like the teasers and stuff, and that's when we'd start getting excited for the next game. And then it started being like, okay, leaks would come out like months before we even get the full reveal for the next Call of Duty. But now I feel like it's like a whole year before the game even releases that we're already getting leaks and rumors about the next one, which is just very crazy. But it's a lot to talk about because it has been revealed that Call of Duty will release a premium title. I'm going to put premium in air quotes, title in air quotes as well, in 2023. That's what Activision said in their new financial release discussion thing, whatever they were doing yesterday. And they did say that there will be a new premium release next year in 2023. And originally they said there wasn't, right? Originally they said, no, we're going to skip a year. Treyarch's next game is going to come out in 2024. But it turns out this whole premium release they're talking about is not actually a new Call of Duty game. And according to Jason Schreier, which is a very reputable person, by the way, so there's definitely, validity behind this source, he says that there will be a Modern Warfare 2 premium expansion that is made by Sledgehammer Games. So that is very interesting. I was fully expecting to see some sort of expansion to Modern Warfare 2 because it's going to be a 2-year game, but I was not expecting it to be like a full premium expansion. And the word premium kind of alludes to the idea that it's going to be a full-priced game, like $70, as opposed to just being a DLC. Because if it was just a DLC, I don't think they would word it as a premium release. And I think it makes sense why they're doing this, because obviously they've been releasing a new Call of Duty every year for like years, right? So if they just skip a year, no matter how much microtransaction revenue they make from, Warzone and multiplayer and all that stuff, no matter how much they make from that, it's not going to make up for the amount of loss they're going to have in revenue for not releasing a new Call of Duty, because Call of Duty sells extremely well every year. Even when it sells really poorly compared to other COD titles, it's still one of the highest selling that year. I mean, you look at Infinite Warfare, I think that was the highest selling game of that year. And even Vanguard, which was another really low selling Call of Duty, I believe it was still the highest selling game of that year. So Call of Duty always sells extremely high. So they would be missing out a lot of money if they decided not to release a game. But they also want to give Treyarch enough time to make COD 2024, so they're not going to force Treyarch to push their game up a year, which is good. I'm glad they're not doing that. As much as I would love to see Treyarch's game as soon as possible, I also want that game to be as good as it possibly can be. And the more time they take on it, the more likely it's going to be a really damn good game. I'm fully expecting that to be like one of the best CODs of all time, as long as Treyarch sticks to their design philosophy and they also don't have any interruptions. And if that's the case, it's going to be one of the best for sure. As for this Modern Warfare 2 expansion, what is this going to entail? Now, a lot of people were freaking out about it because it's made by Sledgehammer, and I think that's kind of ridiculous because, it's not really a big deal as to who's really making the content, because at the end of the day, the game is already made. They're not making a game from scratch. They're just adding content to the game itself, and I'm sure it's going to be very much in, close collaboration with Infinity Ward. It's not like Sledgehammer's just going to work on their own thing completely and just hand it over to Infinity Ward and just be done. I'm sure it's going to be a very tight, very enclosed collaboration. So whatever they add to the game, it's going to be within Infinity Ward's regulations, you know what I mean? And Activision's obviously, withholding the whole thing, so they're probably going to be, calling the shots for things anyways, like they usually do. So I don't think the fact that Sledgehammer is making it is going to be a big problem for people who don't like Sledgehammer Games Call of Duties. I personally don't really have a problem with most of their CODs. Their CODs for me usually tend to be like just the average Call of Duty experiences. Like Advanced Warfare I think is okay. World War II I think is definitely a lot better, but I'm not like crazy about it either. I just think it's pretty good all around. And then Vanguard, I have a lot of issues with, but most of those issues were the same issues Modern Warfare 2019 has, and even some of the same issues that Modern Warfare 2 has anyways. And a lot of the other things they did with the game I think were pretty cool. So I don't have any problem with Sledgehammer at all. I don't think they're a terrible studio, and the studio is very different. These studios change substantially year to year, and also the talent there, like there is very talented people there. Just because you don't like what they made one year does not mean that talent is not going to change, or maybe they'll make something different because they learned that maybe the things that they did make the past couple years wasn't something that people really loved. So just keep that in mind. I don't think we should freak out because Sledgehammer is making it. I think that's not really a big problem. The big question I have here is, what is the content going to be? Is it going to be campaign stuff, multiplayer stuff, and co-op stuff, or is it just going to be one or the other? Now, if it's a $70 paid expansion, which they didn't confirm the price for it, but let's just assume it is a full price $70 thing, then it has to be for every mode. But it has to be like really, really extra for every mode, because when you think about it, it's not like it's the game, right? It's not like that $70 price is the game itself. This is going to be an expansion to an already existing game. So it's not going to be new mechanics, it's not going to be new graphics, it's going to be the same game. So I can assume it's going to be new maps, probably maybe a couple other small things, like cosmetics, and then I'm sure campaign DLC. That's like the obvious one that's going to happen, definitely some campaign DLC. And then I'm hopeful we're going to get a new co-op mode. I really don't want to see more stuff for Spec Ops. I mean, sure, if you want to add more stuff, go for it, but I would love to see them add zombies, and if they were to add zombies to this expansion, that alone would make it worth it to me, because I would love to see some zombies within this game. I think that'd be a great time to introduce zombies, give us like a year break, which what we're getting right now, and then once this expansion comes out, boom, we get zombies. That would be awesome, so incredible, a great way to lead us up to Treyarch's next game. And of course, it would be made by Sledgehammer as well, which I can trust Sledgehammer to make a zombies mode. They've only really made one before. You know, a lot of people don't know this, but actually they did not make Advanced Warfare's Exo Zombies. That was actually made by Raven. And of course, Vanguard Zombies was made by Treyarch. So Sledgehammer only made World War II Zombies, which I didn't love. I thought there were some good things about it, some bad things, but I could definitely be okay with seeing them make another Zombies mode. And again, like I said, the studio is very different today, so I'm sure they could piece together a pretty good mode within the time they have. Even if it's not something like really crazy and it's just like maybe like zombies on multiplayer maps, honestly, I would take anything over nothing. That's kind of the way I see it. I just would love to see zombies in the Modern Warfare mechanics in the Modern Warfare game. That'd be awesome. But even with all that being said, even with, let's say, like 2 zombies maps, campaign, and a bunch of multiplayer maps, does that worth $70? Like, you know what I mean? I don't see it being worth $70, but I also don't feel like they're gonna make it like a $40 expansion, because then they'll be losing a lot of money, because it's a lot less than $70, obviously. But then again, you got to think about people, right? Are people more willing to buy something if it's $40 as opposed to $70? If it's just an expansion. So maybe they would make more money with it being $40 as opposed to $70. I don't know. I'm not the person making those decisions, but I'm very curious to see what they do with that, because I don't know. Another big discussion about this that can be had is, what is it going to do to the player base? Now, the player base is big enough to the point where I don't think splitting the player base is going to like ruin the game, but it is going to be a little weird, because like, what if you have friends that don't want to pay for the extra expansion, and then you just can't play those extra maps? That's the whole reason they did the whole, free DLC thing, because they didn't want that to happen. That was one of the main reasons for it. They wanted people to be able to play together with their friends on every map that is available. But if you have this paid expansion with like 20 plus maps that you can't play on with your friends because you didn't feel like buying them, it's kind of going to be a weird situation. I think campaign DLC and zombies is one thing that's completely fine. That's something that will work just fine. But for multiplayer, I don't see this working. And what can you add other than just maps and cosmetics? Because if you start going into like new guns and other stuff like that, like that's actually stuff you can use in game, well, now you're going to have the issue of being quote unquote pay to win. I'm not going to actually, I hate the word pay to win, because it's never really actually pay to win, but what if there are much better guns in the expansion than before? I just don't think they would do that. Again, they've stopped this whole idea of paid DLC guns, so why would they be doing that with an expansion? It's kind of the same thing. So I don't really know. I'm really confused as to what they're going to do on the multiplayer side of things. I think the campaign and zombies things makes perfect sense. Campaign DLC and a new zombies expansion. That's awesome. That could work really, really well. And I could see that being like a $30 to $40 price thing, like a full new campaign, a couple new zombies maps, and they can add more maps throughout the season. That works just fine. But multiplayer is where things get really fishy, and I can't possibly see a solution here that would make sense, right? And it leads me to my other kind of hopes for this game. I honestly just hope they don't do this. I really would prefer to see a full remaster of these older Call of Duties, as opposed to just taking the elements from those CODs and just throwing them in the new one, because that's kind of what they're doing. According to rumors and leaks, this expansion is supposed to be a bunch of remade maps. It's not even going to be like new content. It's just going to be a bunch of Modern Warfare 2 maps. So it's like, oh, nostalgia, everyone's freaking out about nostalgia because we get to play the OG Modern Warfare 2 maps, which apparently they're already going to be bringing back a lot of Modern Warfare 2 maps maps throughout the year one anyways. So what other maps can they really bring? The other maps that, in my opinion, aren't as good. Like, I don't even like that many maps in MW2 anyways. So it's not like I'm gonna be that excited to play on like fucking like Skid Row. I don't care to play on Skid Row. I don't care to play on Wasteland and a couple of other maps. So I don't really know how that's gonna work. You know, it could be like a best of thing where they do the best Modern Warfare maps like from the OG trilogy, but then again, they've already remade all the best ones in the past couple of Call of Duty, so are we going to see those again? You know, it's just a lot of questions I have for this, and it's just weird that we have to pay for it. You know, I don't really get how that's going to work, and that's why I would just prefer they just remastered those games. Apparently, they remastered Modern Warfare 2 a couple years ago, and they just didn't release the multiplayer. They only released the campaign. They already did COD 4, so that's all well and done, but why can't we see Modern Warfare 2 remastered? Why can't we see Modern Warfare 3 remastered? I think that would be really awesome, because why not? You know, I know they're worried about, oh, they're going to have players be taken off of Warzone and our current Call of Duty, but who cares? We can play multiple Call of Duties at once. We've done that before. The only reason it was somewhat of an issue with the Infinite Warfare life cycle is because not a lot of people were playing Infinite Warfare, and we had paid DLC. So of course, we were splitting the player base quite a bit, not only through having 2 CODs that year, but also through the DLC. And a lot of people weren't even playing Infinite Warfare in the first place, so that obviously didn't help either. But now, this is the most selling Call of Duty of all time, or at least it's the fastest selling Call of Duty of all time. It probably will be the most selling at a certain point. So, it doesn't really matter if you add another game. A whole year later, by the way, a whole year later, if you were to add a new game that's a remaster of an OG, people are going to go back to that and have fun with it. And you can add microtransactions there. I really would not care to see cosmetic microtransactions in Modern Warfare 2. I wouldn't care. It would be confusing to have a remaster of Modern Warfare 2 while also having this new COD that's also called Modern Warfare 2. I know it would be confusing for everyone, but I would prefer that over just throwing all that content in the newer game that I just don't really think works. And back to the point about splitting the player base with a remastered Call of Duty, isn't that the same thing as just adding a new expansion? Isn't that going to split the player base the same exact way? You know what I mean? So I don't really know why they couldn't just do that instead. You know what I mean? When I first heard that there was a premium release coming in 2023 and they didn't say anything about expansion, I was like, whoa, we're going to get a remaster. We're going to get Modern Warfare 2 remastered, Black Ops 1 remastered, Black Ops 2 remastered, World at War remastered, whatever. And I was really excited, especially because those old Call of Duties aren't really playable anymore. But then we hear it's just an expansion. Like I said, for campaign and zombies, that sounds awesome. If there is going to be zombies. If there isn't, then I literally could not give less of a shit. Just more campaign, okay, cool. I mean, I'll play, I'll be excited for it, whatever, but I'm not going to be like, wow, new Call of Duty. It's not going to have that same feeling as a new Call of Duty. Whereas a new zombies, I think, would at least somewhat give me the new Call of Duty feel, just because it's a very new thing that we don't currently have in Modern Warfare 2. But for the whole multiplayer side of things, I just don't see it working. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm very curious to see what everyone thinks. I will see you on my next one. Peace out.